All right. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. This is Meet the Masters. Tim Watson here. Today I'm joined by my friend Claudio Temporario. Good morning. Well, I say good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm good, fine, thanks. Good morning for you. I can see it's morning there.
Thanks for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to chat for a while, and I'm looking forward to hearing your story.
My pleasure. It's an honor. As I said, like you said, that everyone says so. I don't know what's what's to tell, but I the same way I've watched so many interviews you have made already, and congratulations, a very good and great job in helping us meet one another throughout the whole world. Whenever we are, we can just go and through these interviews, we can get to know a little bit more about our masters and colleagues and brothers and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of meeting people, I remember the first time I got a chance to meet you. It was in competition at World Championships.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we could have passed, but it's 2014 was the one I remember. You were doing the sword and you were very good, but you were clearly injured. And I talked to you afterwards, and you had had an injury, and then you still trained because you had all of the, you know, you had everything set. I know we're jumping ahead a little bit, but maybe just share a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, that was yeah, was 2014 exactly. So that was my last world championship, and I was really, not that I don't do it often and always, but when you get that one last chance to go for the cup and everything, so I was training really hard, and 2 months or 2 months and a half prior to the world championships, we had a national championship in Mozambique. And doing Kung Sun Kung, I on the last Yapchagi, I pulled my hamstring. It's like completely torn up. It's like internal bleeding and everything. It was just like a really bad situation. I could go around it and avoid surgery, but it was one of those things I had to, like, I got back to my normal 11 months after, and not like 100%. But at that point and stage, we already had the tickets and everything was settled for the world championship. So I had two options. You can say three. It's like I could give up and not going, which I don't think anyone would do that, because you can always enjoy seeing everyone else, and from your colleagues to all the family of World Tang Soo Do Association. We don't get to see that often, and we are so far, and it's a big investment. And the other option was going and watching, like, family and whoever goes to watch us do. And the third option was, well, this is what I got ready for. There's really something wrong with it. I know I'm not gonna achieve whatever goals I set up to, but it's part of the path that we as martial artists, they say, and this is, you now see these things written everywhere, but really is the way I feel about it. It's just, it's in those bad times, in those situations, that you can really, not just for other people but to yourself, where you can show that, okay, I'm gonna bounce back from this situation. Am I gonna give up? I'm gonna just like feel sorry for myself? What am I gonna do? So it was complicated, because when you used to perform, you don't want the excuse as well. It's just like going, and it's like, well, I'd rather not do it than doing it. And then and that is why no one knew about it. And you asked and got the answer, but a lot of people was I could see they were surprised, like, okay, so what is wrong? Because once I had to move, like walking or something, then you could see clearly like something is wrong with this guy. But that was good. I was really not afraid. I just didn't know what to expect about the whole situation. And even with the judging and everything, I talked to the judges, of course. I told them that, okay, I had this injury. I'm going to compete. I'm going to try to show my best, but just bear in mind that, okay, what you're going to see is someone that was not supposed to be here. But then at the end of the day, that's when the rewards they do come, and all the people praising and feeling that, okay, that was like an inspiration and everything. So that was a lesson to myself, because sometimes you do the greatest things but almost like blindfolded. You don't know that the end result is going to be that. You're not doing for others, you're not doing for yourself. You have that feeling that you can't explain, that okay, I'm set to do this, and no matter the situation, I have to finish. So in that regard, yes, I did what I had to do, and I did compete. And well, that was it. That was the last year, and from then on, like I was called to masters, and that was it.
Yeah, that's right. Because the next year I saw you, and as soon as I saw you, I'm like, hey man, what's up? And then we ended up being partners, and yeah, the rest is history. Um, so yeah, we kind of jumped ahead there, but I want to go back. Um, so that was 2014. When did you actually get started in the martial arts?
In martial arts in general, or Tang
In
Soo Do?
general, yeah.
When I was six, I think 5 or 6, 6 years old. I think 6 years old. I started in we were like Mozambique. We, in terms of martial arts, we had Kimura Shukokai karate. That was the only thing around, and boxing, so fighting styles. And then in the 90s, uh, late 80s, they brought taekwondo, international taekwondo. It's like something with the government. So the Mozambican government had an arrangement with the North Korean government, and they were teaching the troops. They didn't speak any Portuguese, just Korean in this. So first was just for the troops, and then they opened for the general population. And at that time, I trained the karate, and not for too long. I think 1 year and something. So I was trying. I was sparring with this very tall kid, and I was trying to just like to hit him with a toliachagi to the head, and he was too tall. So I overextend my leg, and I lost my base, and I fall on the side of my head, and the floor was like concrete. So I had this huge face. I was crying, and then I remember it was very close to my house. So we here have like maids, people that serves us and everything. So I came back home with the maid, and well, we tried to explain it to my parents, and my father even tried a little bit. Oh, you need to go back and this and that, but that was it. I didn't want to go back. So for a few years I stopped, and then I got back to the same martial art in 1991. I was 11 years old, and I did that for about 3 years. That was a good time, 2 years and a half, 3 years. And then I remember I went to this championship, and I was always this guy, when we were kids, like I was fantasizing, just like Bruce Lee movies and kicking and this. All I wanted to do is like this all fancy kicks and stuff. So my arms basically were just to block. I wouldn't, just like everything I would do with my legs. It's just like no punching, just blocking and kicking, blocking and kicking. And back in those days, I don't know if it was something from Mozambique, if it was worldwide, but karate in terms of kicking, uh, they had a lot of restrictions. No side kicking, no miro yapchakis, no this, no that. And in the competitions, I was always penalized because of the kind of kicks I would do. So no, you can't do that, and you can't. It's like, but I'm scoring. What do you mean I can't do it? And I gave up because of that. Then 1.5 years later, I have this friends inviting me to go to a taekwondo class, and I finally decided, okay, let's do it. It was close to my house as well. I went there, and I was amazed. A lot of flying kicks, not as much as a World Taekwondo Federation like WTF Taekwondo. ITF, it's more similar, I would say, to Tang Soo Do
Okay.
in terms of the way they do things. It's a lot of similarities, a lot of things that don't add up. Of the two, World Taekwondo and International Taekwondo, international is more similar to Tang Soo Do. So I was amazed, like for the first time, and you know, all these things were like colleagues and everyone was praising me. Oh, nice kicks and this and that. So I got pumped up and everything, and I trained almost to my black belt. So I got to blue belt level, and when I was about to test for red belt, which is the rank that comes before the black belt, my instructor went to South Africa for university. And once again, I was training all this time and I didn't achieve the black belt. And I was starting to think, no, you know, this thing is, it's impossible. You never get to black belt. And in those days was something very, very hard to achieve. Not just because of the difficulty, but because you wouldn't have anyone, unless you could travel and go test overseas, which very, very few people would be able to do those things. So I just thought, well, maybe this is not for me. Now you're insisting since you were a kid and this and that. So, you know, teenage, I was like 17 years old. Yes, I guess 17. And I thought, well, this is it. I'm never going back to martial arts. So my martial arts career ends now. I'm gonna focus on some other stuff. So when I started, when right, I think a few months before this thing happened, the Master Schobach, he got into Tang Soo Do. He was, I guess, 15 years old, about that, if I can remember. And we didn't know each other, but he was a beginner student. I was a blue belt, so just like high rank, opening classes, giving warm-ups and this and that. And it was his first time doing martial arts. So there's a lot of disadvantages to start something late, but there's a lot of advantages as well. And one of those is that when you start something late, you bring the enthusiasm of a young kid because it's something new to you. So he was very excited with the martial arts. And once that instructor traveled, he searched for another thing, and Tang Soo Do was just starting in Mozambique, started at 98, so that was 1 year after. So he told me, and another friend of ours that was doing Tang Soo Do as well, they told me, like, you know, there's this cool new martial art. You got the self-defense was like the strong plate of Tang Soo Do because all the martial arts had the sparring, the forms, some not in the curriculum, but the instructors that wanted to just like go a little bit and investigate and give it on their classes, they can bring up a few weapons. So bong and self-defense were the difference between Tang Soo Do and all the other martial arts. So this was what was bringing the attention of people. It's like, well, this martial art that does this that no other martial art has. So they showed me a few self-defense techniques, and I was impressed. Like, wow, nice. And they tried to convince me, come on, guy, just come and try. The instructor at the time, the chief instructor at that time, he would give like every now and then, like a little paper when you were allowed to a two class trial. I think 2 or 1 class trial. So they gave me that like once or twice, and I never showed up. I was really like, nah, okay, I like this, but it's like, no, I know I was gonna end up. I was used to things not going anywhere. So there was a period of 2 years, and then there was when you got something in you, it's in you. So there was enough time of a break from martial arts, and they asked me, I remember as clear as this day, was in the building where Master Shobak used to live, and they on the weekends they used to schedule a training on the rooftop. Very tall, not very tall, not for United States, not very tall, but it's like about 50 floors or something like that. So we were on the rooftop, and we were training, playing, training, sparring, and eating the punching bag and this and that, doing some kicks. So they gave me another paper. And it's like, it's like, come on, just come just once. And if you don't like it, we'll never talk to you about it anymore. I said, all right, okay, I'll do that. And then I just showed up and I tried, and amazingly, it's like we have what many martial artists call it, and some people agree with it, some don't. It's like muscle memory. When you do something for such a long time, it becomes a natural reaction, like an instinct you develop on your own body. So, first day, your body is fresh. And when you're excited about something, everything comes out. I was doing this crazy kicks, and everybody was like, oh, man, so what are we training in? And I really felt embraced. And in the end of the class, they did, okay, everybody now just face back. We have a new student, let's welcome him. And that was something that I've never experienced before. So that as well just stood in my mind. It's like, wow, the way, the respect, the real brotherhood, because the way things work in Mozambique is, even if you're in the same martial art, if you're from different schools, the competition is fierce, but it's like in a bad way. You're not even friends. Like, so it brings a lot of quality in terms of competition, but not a healthy environment. So I was not used to that. And that really caught my attention. And there was the first big thing about World Tang Soo Do Association that I felt. Like the unity is not just momentary. It's not just in that specific situation where you're experiencing some pain or some success, or no, at all times. So I felt embraced. I felt a sense of belonging. So then the instructor called me. Well, you used to do something else. I used to, but it's been a couple of years. I haven't been training and everything. So they did a small test, and they just gave me, I guess, was orange belt. Yeah, I guess they promoted me to orange belt. It was funny because, well, the next class, of course, after so many years, I was all sore. And then all the things I was doing in the first day, and everyone was amazed, they just faded away. I couldn't do anything now. But those are the things. And it took me a couple, just like 2 years, 3 years and a half, to go back to what I think it's reasonable. But that was it. That was the kickstart of Tang Soo Do, and from then on, that was the 2020. So I was 20 years old, and it's been 23 and a half years of Tang Soo Do.
Wow. Yeah, that's about. So I started in 2001, so I was right around that same time.
Yeah.
As far as the training between the different styles, were they similar when you came to Tang Soo Do? Obviously, you felt that brotherhood, but how was the training compared to those other styles?
Well, I feel that,
Other
first
than
and
you said the
foremost,
self-defense.
yeah, it's about the martial artists. Of course, we can always make the best out of even something small, or make nothing of something huge. So that all depends on the martial artist. I usually tell my students, you guys, just bear in mind that it doesn't matter the craft of how do you call, let's just, the word's not coming to my mind now, but if I'm producing swords, I'm a swordsmith, and I don't, doesn't matter, I'm the world's greatest swordsmith, and I don't have the right material, like the quality of the skill that I have is very poor, I will never be able to make the greatest sword out of that. So I always tell them, well, you can take from whoever is giving you, but just remember that the biggest thing of the whole situation, of the whole scenario, it's you, yourself. So it comes from within. So taking that in consideration, uh, of course, I already told you I was amazed and I loved kicking. So that would, I was driven towards fighting styles that use legs a lot. Doesn't mean that the other ones weren't that good. It was just not my thing. So for that, I was closed for whatever uh, good could come from those disciplines, and I was very young. But I would say um, karate was pretty different. The way I see it, the 90s, 80s karate and the one that exists today, it's very, very different. I think they evolved a lot, and with the use of legs and arms, they made it better, which is good for them. Um, but the difference back in those days, and I need to make this clear because it's a time frame. I was training back in those days. If it was these days, it would be different. So we weren't allowed. There was a lot of technique and philosophy and concepts, all based on just movement and hand techniques. And I felt that it was incomplete. Uh, of course, it's not the same karate of these days, but that is my experience as someone that was in a karate school back in those days. So in terms of taekwondo, there was a lot. It was the opposite, the complete opposite situations. A lot of kicking drills. We had almost like a 2-hour class, and 1 hour and a half of the class was just kicking, and just like drilling, really repetitions. Like it was great, was good, and we would train against the wall, so you won't have, because our very tendency is just to move back, move back, move back. So training, sparring, and those things, you would always be like in a situation where you couldn't move. You were like, and they would give you this specific techniques where okay, so if it is a Tolio, a Yap, and a Yapuryu Chagi, you need to go to the left. And if it is a Anisu Chiki, a Chokdo, and this and that, you need to go right. So was drills, but everything. So I praised the instructor. The instructor was very good, but the environment was very bad. Like what they used to do, if you're a new student, you would come to the dojang. So they would do the warm-up, and they will make you a circle, and the new student would go in and would have to spar with the other ones one by one, and they would mess you up. And that was just like basic for every taekwondo school back in the day. So it's like, if he comes back, then he belongs with us. If he doesn't, then well, we're just cleaning the thing as soon as we can, instead of investing in someone who he's gonna give up in 1 or 2 years. And this is a 80s, 90s mentality. Of course, these days, even those martial arts, they don't work that way no more, because we know better and times are different. But I would say that Tang Soo Do just made everything that I got from the other martial arts and just put it together. So you had the balance between the kicking techniques and the hand techniques. You had the self-defense, you had the weapons, plus you could be you. You didn't have to pretend to be the alpha male and this and that, and embrace all of those things that really it's just for show. And at the end of the day, it's like you're not going according with your own nature and somewhere along the way you end up breaking something inside, and that's when you start asking questions and you don't know where you are, where you want to go, and suddenly you just give up and no one understands. Oh, you're good, you can do this, you can do that, but then you don't feel the sense of belonging that I talked about. um, so yeah, those were like the biggest differences. So in terms of training, there's always that good thing from one style and another style, and we can get, but I would say it's not because we are in Tang Soo Do, but that was the most or the more balanced experience that I had. So that made me stay. And I had the problem as well of constantly, I see that with a lot of students, especially if you're naturally gifted, you lose interest very fast. You need to be, the instructors and the dojo, the school where you are, needs to be feeding you all the time. And that is not the correct answer, because sometimes your body is ready to receive, but your brain, your mind is not. And that is why in Tang Soo Do, I can understand that we take so much time to achieve certain levels, and you don't jump stages, because eventually it's like giving a gun to a kid. So, okay, he has the power, he has the firepower to do, but he doesn't have the right mindset and maturity to do whatever he needs to do, and eventually it's gonna end up bad.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that green belt and brown belt. They know enough to be dangerous, right? To them, to themselves, and to you.
Yeah.
You know, and then, like you said, as you grow and you mature, you have more control and you focus more on your technique than just that sheer energy and intensity that you get at that belt rank. Um, One of the things, and I love what you just said, it appears that the Dojang fostered a sense of community. And when I think of seeing a lot of the guys from your era, from Mozambique and around there, there was definitely a sense of community. Like at the World Championships, you guys pushed each other, and you were still a very fierce competitors. Do you agree with that statement with those guys? That I feel like you had a pretty good core of guys who pushed each other and worked hard and competed hard.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. I think so. Um, there is always um, some value. I wouldn't say value, but the dojang and the environment is always responsible for these things. But actually, there's some social and political situations talking about the country-wise, in terms of each country, the way things work there, the difficulties they have, the advantages, disadvantages, all of those things that play a big role in the end result and on the things you just said. So one of the things is really we would train hard, but I don't think that um, other countries or other students or other practitioners don't train hard as well. We would really would push each other and uh, try to support as much as we can, even in competition. But the main thing is it's so hard and so far from everything where we are that it's really hard to explain what it would nowadays. Not so much, because there's a lot of people bringing the experience, but even then, I'm just talking about something that really you cannot put into words. You need to experience, you need to have the feeling of the whole situation,
Mhm.
like going to a world championship, like going to a seminar, like meeting personally in firsthand senior masters. That is something we don't have. And although it sounds ridiculous because time has come so far and so many years have passed by, but we still see things through the web now. And back at those days, TV and videos and this and that. So for us to have the opportunity to go and experience that is something we don't take lightly. That's the same way I remember very often, like my first world championship was 2004. And I had one or two masters telling me, like, listen, you don't need to bow to all the time to every master that passes by. You're gonna end up all day just bowing, bowing, bowing. But that is just to tell you how much we are not used to, how much we value the opportunity to be there and do it. So we don't take anything for granted. From the trip traveling, it's many flights, connections, waiting time, and everything is a struggle. Finding the means, financial financial means to pay for the championship and accommodation, meals, and everything. So we know how much we put in those things. So it's very hard to look to the side and see the other person doing that. Like, those difficult situations, they just bring the brotherhoods like very, very, very strong and tight because uh, you can really identify yourself with the struggle and the sacrifice everyone is doing. And I remember, like, one of the things we start, just say, like, the national team, we're about 30. And we know that number is just like the first numbers, like, okay, you qualified, you qualified, you qualified, you have the points and this and that. And right out of the bat, like, we take the list and you see, okay, 10 of those people, just forget it. They have no means at all to go anywhere. So they're out. Then you get 20. From those 20, you got 5 that, for personal reasons, family or brother, mother, father, uncle, someone in a good financial situation can really sponsor the whole thing. But then about 10 to 15 will struggle. And as one gives up, you pass whatever he has to the next. So that means that if I'm not going and it's like, well, listen, guys, I've been trying. We are 1.5 months from the championship. And just like, I did my last effort and I can see that I'm not going for sure. So, okay, how much do you got? Well, I have this, I don't know, $500. Say, okay. So, okay, you give those, and now I split those $500 in two. So 250 go for Master Watson, and another 250 go to Master Schobach. And now these two guys are closer, right, to the chance of going to the championship. So you see, all of those things, we don't train thinking that, okay, if I don't do good this championship, on the next one, I don't know if there's going to be a next one. Yeah. So when we go, we take everything with us. So I think that's like the biggest fuel for whatever we display in those opportunities we get. But of course, there's a lot of training, there's a lot of camaraderie, there's a lot of brotherhood, sisterhood environment and training that we do. But I don't think those go as that far apart from whatever it's being done all over the world. I just think we look at those opportunities in a much different way because it's so hard for us to be able to take part in those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I thank you for sharing that. Like you said, and I know personally from talking to you, just getting to Alabama, it take you guys, well, that the one time I like 30 hours of traveling plus, right? And yeah, how long just to get to the airport?
With you asking?
Yeah.
Well, it all depends. We always try to go with the cheapest. So, the cheapest means the
Right.
hardest. So
Yeah.
you want cheap, not gonna be good. So a lot of this huge hours that we have, they're counting with waiting times
Right.
because we travel, but then we have an 8 hour gap between
Yeah.
flights. So we just sit in the airport. If it's one of those airports that we can walk around and see all the stores and we have something to do. But if not, we'll just sit and talk and do something. But basically it's like the shortest flight we can get. It's about 18 hours, 18,
Yeah.
18, 19. So we usually go around 23 hours, 22 hours, and depending on some bad decisions that we made before, sometimes you think you're saving but you're not, because then you need to run because of connection flights and this that, and it's not worth it.
Right.
So you end up saving, but it's just those things that you learn with experience. So we try to, with time, make things better. But
Yeah, no, it's a great story to show people how much you take advantage of the opportunity when you have it. And often I'll have people say, "Oh, I'll wait till next time. I'll wait till next time." Well, what if there isn't a next time? What if what if this, that, or the other thing happens? So, I appreciate hearing that, and and then passing it along. If you're like, "Well, I can't make it now, but here's this for you." Um, that's awesome. You mentioned 2004. Were you that was my first Worlds as well. Were you a black belt in that?
I was a Choranbo.
Chodamba. Okay. I was wondering because I that was my very first black, like I got my black belt in June. I competed in July at World Championships as a black belt. So that
So
was
I made my black belt in October that year.
okay. Gotcha.
So
Okay. So we were there. We were both there, just not in the same ring. I as I was telling that story of 2014, I completely forgot the year before we sparred each other.
far, yeah, I was far together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned your kicks, and I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, you beat me 1-0, and we just went back and forth throwing kicks. And
Yeah.
I was just like you said earlier, we just keep the hands up to protect, and we just threw kicks.
There was a kicking sparring, kicking contest.
That's
I
right.
remember. I remember because that was the only time, thankfully, I got struck like plain. Like I guess because I did not even see. I was coming after a kick. I just kicked. Guess I was spinning, and then I just felt this thing on my eye, and I think it was a spinning kick. Like you did like a spinning kick, and you got me right on the high, and that was just not a point because it was just like excessive contact.
Right,
But
right.
that was a good one. I was like, okay, so we got some real fierce competition. But it was a hard sparring there. I mean, we just
That's right.
went all the way in. Like we finished the time.
Yeah. No, I mean
Good memories.
those are always tough divisions. You know. Uh, do you have any? I'm sure you have. Could you share some memories of Grandmaster? Were you around when Grandmaster Shin would visit?
Yeah, we were blessed enough because Region 14 was a region that had, I guess, was just back in the days, South Africa. I don't know if there was any other country before that, but it was just maybe one or two, and then the whole thing went down when Master Dignos, which was the master from South Africa, passed away, and
Right.
the whole Tang Soo Do situation. Sometimes these things, unfortunately, they just almost like depend on one individual, and is like the point of unity. So once you lose that, things start crumbling down, and worst case scenario, you just stop existing. So that was not the case, but was pretty rough. I think back in those days in the 90s, Tang Soo Do was almost at the point of fading away from Region 14. But then, well, there's always that someone that comes along and carries the torch, and we keep moving on. So when that happened, Kwon Shin, he was like the person in the region, the senior master at the time. He was, if I'm not mistaken, the term was, it was like the regional coordinator.
Okay.
And Kwon Shin was actually the regional director, if you can say, because he was not in the region, but he was acting like a regional director. So what happened, like, long story short, he would come every year because he needed to check how Tang Soo Do was going in Region 14. So we had him every year. So I remember 2002, I guess it was like the first African, and we used to host the African Championships every year till 2009, where he said it to us like, listen, I don't understand how you guys do this, you know. We got the Americas and Europe and everything, like the whole world, much richer than you with bigger possibilities. And we have a biannual championship, big championship, European or world. You guys have a regional every year. Like, why don't you change that? So we stopped doing that in 2009. But before that, we used to have it like every year, and you would be here for those championships, like almost every year. So he would bring always, usually a master, like Punjanim Strong came with him. Actually, was one of the first masters coming with him to Mozambique. So the biggest difference, I didn't know till I went to the World Championships and I saw like how people would be around Punjanim, and security stuff with like firearms and everything, all the security protocol, and I really felt like someone even said that I don't know if it was the words of Punjanim Shin, but you would feel somehow that it was like he was in Korea. Like no one knew him. He could just like do whatever and walk more freely, not worrying about media and all the attention and security and this and that. So always in a professional manner, of course, but you could really tell that he was more loose in the role of being a grandmaster, but being himself and not so much bounded every time by the example he had to give to the world of Tang Soo Do Association.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the funniest memories I have is we are hosting this African championship, and we close the championship, and once you finish, you need to clean. We do our cleaning. We need to clean the venue. So we are cleaning the venue, and then this one of the masters like, where is Punjanim? Where's Punjanim? Punjanim. And now the senior students and everybody's just like running around. Where's Punjanim? And was near downtown. It's not like Mozambique. It's not like a really like violent country like some African countries we have, but we were like close to downtown. It's not like the safest place. Not that we were just like thinking that, well, we know it's plunging in, but you have all that responsibility. Now you have like number one person in a worldwide organization, and no one knows where he is. So one of us just decided to go outside of the venue just to see, well, maybe it's just, I don't know, just, you know, Punjanim Shin, you would just go, you was very, always focused in everything around him. So even if it's a wall, that has this weird structure. You would get close to it, touch it to see it. If it is like a painting, you would just, like a magnet, you would just go, and you need to be around them because you would just move. You will not say, well, I'm going, you would just move. So now everybody's looking for him. One of us goes outside and sees him like, I don't know, like 600 meters away, like from afar, just like this small Guanjanin far away from the venue, walking by himself towards the downtown of the city, and just like watching we have this street market, informal market. So it was just walking around and seeing the people, and you just went on. So we just shouted, wow, Benjamin is outside, and just like two senior guys just went running, and well, what can you say to Benjamin? Nothing. We just went there and just like, okay, walk the room. Well, sir, maybe we should go back and this and that. So I have a lot of those things from almost every championship. Like the championship party usually was something very just like free, and so free that once, one of those times, we had the meeting after the championship, and he was mad. It was really mad because we with time you start getting used to it as well. So that one year, when it came to the time where the kids and all the participants go and collect signatures from the grandmaster, I guess, I don't remember if you are not paying attention, or if for a brief period there was no one checking out. So the kids were just going, and now you sign here, now you sign here, now you sign here, now. And there was no control at all. And he was just signing those things. And you know, when you're a senior, that is why it's always good to be with someone lower rank, because especially the higher you get in the ranks, if you go to a very low rank, to correct it's hard because they don't always understand. And you have that father figure that you're supposed to correct, but you're supposed to give some love as well.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in young kids, everything's blurred. They don't see clearly where is like the instructor, the friend, the parent. So you need to play with all of those things in order to keep them in check, but not being afraid of you, but feeling secure at the same time, have the respect and listen to all the commands and everything you say. So what happened there, I think he wanted to do something about it, but those were really like tiny tigers, little dragons, and this and that. So he couldn't say anything. And then the kids were running around and they were eating popcorns, and that championship, just the competition went good, but the organization was bad.
Gotcha.
So he was very mad at us. It's like he called it, if I remember well, he called it like a flea market. So this looked like a flea market, like kids running all around, and they just needed to come to me and say, well, you can sign in my pants, in my. So he was, and then we were all like that, like, oh, no, we did this very wrong, and we didn't know how to act after that. And then the championship party came, and that's the thing. He was playing with the microphone, and he would sing with us, and he would do things that often, or usually around the whole world, like it was hard. Like I remember once we played soccer in a championship party, and Kwanjanin was playing soccer with us. So then he decided they were losing the game against like the young black belts and this and that. So every time we get close to we're playing soccer. Every time we get close to score, close to the goalkeeper, he would go like, Chayot! And we were all like, and then he would go and get the ball and send it back to the other kids. So we had these things that I think, and I can understand, it's hard to be that way everywhere. You need the proper environment to be that way. So yeah, there was sometimes it needed to be, hard and I don't know, harsh if it's the right word, but he needed to do what he needed to do to have a new country with a lot of, I would say, talent, but very poor in philosophy and discipline and structure.
Structure. Yeah.
We were just um, technically gifted, but in terms of mindset, everything was so was hard. It was like having this very sharp blade where, well, you're proud of it, but at the same time, you know that anytime anything can go wrong and there can be a disaster. So there's a lot of good memories with small environments, just few masters. So it was good. It was very good. It was unique times we get to experience, thankfully.
Well, fast forward however many years, and you were talking about like the senior masters, and now you are, whether you want to admit it or not, one of those masters and someone that's in charge as uh, newly appointed assistant regional director. So congratulations on that.
Thank
Um,
you.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You've also been the country director uh,
Yep, from
for a
Mozambique.
while now. Tell me how it feels to be in that position now, like you said, after all of those years of coming up, and now you get to apply those lessons that you've learned through all those years to help guide the next generation of your region through and help hopefully make them better martial artists and have the great moments and memories that you had coming up.
It's well, it's always an honor and a pleasure to have the opportunity to give back. I don't see it as, we often say, well, as a means of playing. We say, well, then we'll talk about your salary and this and that. Actually, I think we start gaining as a student. You're learning, you're perfecting your character, you're perfecting your body, you're perfecting your mind. So, and the way Tang Soo Do or pure martial arts do it is, you're supposed to be a better human being. That means evolving in every aspect of a living thing that needs to bond and trade energy and experience with everything you come in contact with: animals, people, materials, the way you respect your dojang, the place where you get whatever you're learning. So all of those things, it's really when you give them back. And some people say, well, you have the qualities of a leader. I don't think that way about myself. I don't think that way about myself, because I think there's a lot that you need to have. Now, with time, when you need, because there's no other option, no one is forcing you. But when I say there's no other option, is that you feel that there's no way you can say no to certain things, because you have to give back. No one is forcing you. No one is. But if there's some questions you don't say no to. So I did it because I had to, because that was the situation. And then with time, I was looking at myself and focusing on the weight of responsibility, what I can't do. So experience and those are the valuable lessons you learn for yourself and you learn for others as well. So I've learned that you can give a chance to someone that sometimes you don't see something, or you think that, well, maybe he's not ready, maybe. If you're sure, it's one thing, but if there's a maybe in it, and you can give him the chance, because you never know what's going to come out of that. So everything is a learning process. You're learning all the time, or you're supposed to. Some people don't because they don't want to, because by nature we learn all the time. And really, when you start, I wouldn't say getting comfortable, but when you start feeling that, okay, I can make a difference, then you start knowing how to use what you have and what you don't have, which is very important. We usually focus on, okay, I don't have the tools to. Okay, so what can you do with what you don't have? You can look around. As a leader, you can identify the potential in this and that person. So they often say as well that being a leader is about uniting people and understanding whatever each one can bring up to the table in order to make something big out of nothing. So I think that's the stage where we are now. I started, I was not afraid, but I was very, it's like, I didn't believe in myself, I would put it that way. And I was doing it because I felt that I owed that to my seniors, to the association, and to my colleagues and the youngsters and everyone. But I didn't think I was the person that could do anything. And it took a while to earn some people's trust. Others, they believed in me more than I believed in myself. And those people really help you a lot moving forward. But above all, I would say that when I got the position, especially of country director, it was very complex time in the association in our country. And what I thought it was one of the things that made me lose my energy, my focus, they would weaken me. I was feeling weaker and weaker with the time, but no, they were actually building and making this thick skin that you really need to have to be in certain positions. So I was just in the making, not to say that, okay, but it's just now I've learned not to judge myself that much and focus more in whatever I can do. And when the time is done, it's done. You pass the torch to someone else, and you did something with the time you had instead of focusing on what you can't do or what you don't have. So I've learned to rely. This is something that the bigger the responsibility I have, the problem. Okay, if I give this to someone else, maybe they won't do it the way they're supposed to do it. And now the end up results, like I'm the person, end of the day, who's gonna have to answer for this thing. So I would just try to do everything myself. And it gets to a point, it's impossible. You just can't do it.
Right.
So relying on some other people, trusting, giving opportunity, and really that became one of my main goals, is to have a strong country. And now you start from your own house. We usually say that you start from yourself, and then you go abroad. You cannot start from the outside. So, but making a strong country and a strong region, and having strong people, so that we never need to rely on one person only. So that this means if something goes wrong, the house will still be standing and strong with people to carry the torch. Sometimes it's hard because people don't see your vision, and when you talk, you can listen, but sometimes you don't feel exactly what are we talking about. It's much bigger sometimes than a small situation, and you don't get the end result or the help you would like to. but I came to learn as well that is a process as well. Like the seniors, in my case, I would say I wouldn't be where I am at if it weren't for them. And it's so funny the way the things works. Like every time I had a problem, one of them would be very close to me, let's say. And as time is going by, the when you don't have as much people, you cannot distribute like the pressure and the problems between a lot of heads. So you very easily you get it's like
Overwhelmed.
overwhelmed. Just looking for the word. Thank you so much. You get overwhelmed by the whole situation and the troubles you need to solve and all of those things. So every time I'm with one of them, if they start having, because they do regular jobs, I'm a full-time instructor, but not all of them. So one goes out and another one comes in. And believe me not, this thing, they don't talk to each other. Okay, now you're going to help the master, now you're going to do this. This just happens naturally. It's just like an energy environment. So they all rotating, and it always the person that I need to come and help me on this situation. When that person starts getting tired, he just switches. They're all there, but then there's always that someone that in a certain time, in a certain situation, I can feel him much stronger helping me. So I've been lucky and blessed enough to have. So this is the success not of a one man, but a group of people, and I think that resumes in our association, the way things work, how humble we are, and the effort we put on, and people don't understand, and that's why I say, well, you need to come and train Tang Soo Do to understand. Like, well, no one is paying you for this, no one is doing you that, no one. And we are in a country where, unfortunately, we cannot rely too much on the help from the government. So we do almost everything by ourselves, and it's good. It actually, those things I thought they were destroying me or the will that I had, but it was all that time was me myself. My fears were working against me. All of these things that were happening around me, they were actually just pushing me, So some problem would come along and I would say, well, if I give up now, if I don't face this, if I don't solve this problem, then what am I doing? So against all of my feelings and with all of those fears, I would go and face the situation, and all of those things helped me be a better person. And all of this is because I was given this task where by the day I feel that, okay, yes, I can do it, and I'm trying to give as much as I can to the people around me, so the next one can do better and learn from the mistakes we do now.
Awesome. Well, we're believe it or not, we're running out of time here. I want to thank you for joining me. Is there anything else that you wanted to? We could keep talking for hours, but
Yeah, I know.
well, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
I don't think so. Just
Okay.
grateful. Thank you so much for the interview, and I guess a lot of stories. I always
Yeah.
people say, well, people that don't know me say, well, you never talk. You're always quiet, and then when I get certain people, I talk a lot, and they say, well, you don't keep quiet. You're talking all the time. It's like, oh, I say too many words, and then I have too much to say. Just say to everyone that, well, I'm blessed learning every day with masters, with all the chances we get to go to masters clinics and world championships. There's always that one person or two that will really tell you something that it feels like it's just one or two words, but then it ends up being a key to open a new door in your life. And it's when you're really paying attention, small things that change you so much.
Mhm.
So I would say to everyone that is watching, especially, like low ranks, GUPs, and recent 10 members that like I guess was Senior Master Williamson when he was here. He said, "Stick around," and that is something that it's the truth. You don't stick around long enough to see and learn and really experience what this is about. You'll never know.
Mhm.
So stick around. Yeah, this is family house.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you again for joining me. And thank you everyone for watching. Please share, subscribe, do all those things on the social media. Tang Soo, sir.
Tang Soo.